How we do this, we are the truest. Got these fangs super sharp, your shit toothless. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish. In the graveyard, acting foolish. Finna dance with the devil to no music. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish.
Holy shit, the day has finally arrived. The movie I wrote and executive produced, We Need to Do Something, is out today, Friday, September 3rd, in the United States of America. That's how I say it, America. I go, America, like it's a death rattle, because that's kind of what the country has become, just a death rattle. Anyway, the movie, We Need to Do Something. I fucking wrote it. And it's out now. It was made into a movie. It's out in limited theaters. I think like 27, 29 locations throughout the U.S. Go to we need to do something.movie, and it will show you if it's playing at a location near you. However, it's also out on video on demand, so you can rent it or potentially buy the digital copy through all the usual places. Amazon Prime, iTunes, Apple TV, YouTube, Google Play, all those places. If you go to we need to do something.movie, it will also show you the ways you can stream it online. So if you're interested in watching the movie, I hope you're interested. I really fucking hope you're interested, because it's taking up a lot of my time just talking about it and, writing it and making it not be bad, I hope. So if you're interested, go to that website, check it out. Beginning today, I have a great guest on the show, Sean King O'Grady. He directed the movie, and that's what we're talking about in today's episode, directing spooky movies. But he's not the only one I have from the movie coming on the podcast. In future episodes, expect to hear episodes with like the editor of the movie, Shane Patrick Field, the DP, the person who did the practical effects, the person who did the music. I have Pat Healy coming on. He's in the movie giving one of the best lunatic performances in recent memory, I would say, when it comes to movies. And I know I probably shouldn't praise my own thing, but I'm going to anyway, because this is a podcast and you can't physically fight me right now. It's all in the sound waves. Anyway, yeah, I don't have much else to say in this intro. The movie's out. Holy shit. I hope you like it. I hope you watch it. I hope it does something to you. Go to we need to do something.movie to watch it. If you want to read the book as well, go to Perpetual Publishing. You will find ways to buy signed copies of both the paperback and the limited edition hardcover I'm doing. Only 1,000 copies of that hardcover will be printed. I don't know how long they will last. It's impossible to guess. So if you want one of those, go on over to perpetualpublishing.com, pick up a copy, go to we need to do something.movie, watch the movie. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies, tell your dog. Maybe your dog would like it. There's a dog in the movie. Kind of. I'm not going to say anything else. There's also in the episode, before I get into the conversation, in this episode, when we begin talking about Amy Williams, who did the production design, we do drop a pretty major spoiler about the movie. I will put on some subtle music during that part of the conversation, so you know just to skip ahead. It's not that long of a spoiler discussion, but I just wanted to give you a little heads up in case you haven't seen it yet and you listen to this episode. Beyond the bit where we talk about Amy Williams, the rest of the episode should be safe to listen to if you haven't seen the movie or read the book. So let's go ahead and get into it then. My conversation with Sean King O'Grady, director of the movie We Need to Do Something. And to begin with, I think it would be cool to talk about like how you even got interested in directing movies to begin with.
All right. I got interested in directing movies because I probably around like 12 or 13 realized I didn't really like doing very much other than watching movies and playing video games. And for some reason, making movies seemed more attainable than making video games.
Yeah,
I
video.
didn't
How do
know
you
when.
make a video game? I have no idea. I think you have to like draw 3D images somehow. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm definitely not doing that. So no, I like anybody else of like you're a little younger than me, but like from my generation, my parents had like a video camera, and so I could just shoot movies with it. And then I got a little older and wanted to do that, but didn't know how, didn't know anybody in the industry, etc. So kind of like lost that dream for a little. I never lost the dream, but I lost thinking of it as a realistic career path for a while, and did what I started going to business school and like absolutely hated it and was miserable. I still don't know what business school is. Like, what business do they teach you? The business of business.
Do
Um,
I have
and,
questions about business school? Do they teach you
uh
how to like organize a briefcase?
I lasted 2 weeks.
Nice.
I don't know. I didn't get to the briefcase part.
Did you
Um,
leave? Did you decide to leave, or were you like pushed out? Did they kick you out?
well, I decided to leave. I left school completely a bit later, but at this point, when I left business school, I went into the college that I was going to. Didn't have they do now, but they didn't have a strong film program at the time. So I instead switched from business, which is obviously very employable, to become the least employable human imaginable. I decided to double major in English literature and theater.
Oh, nice. I would suggest in the future, if anyone ever asks you like why you left business school, you should say none of your business.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
it's pretty
None
good.
yet.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I will use that. Um, yeah, but I thought that like the skills I would learn in English literature and in theater would translate to film. And then in the meantime, I was doing like a public access TV show with my friends that was partially live show, but then we'd throw to like pre-recorded segments, like a SNL or something, somewhere between like SNL and any late night show. And I was spending such an inordinate amount of time on those sketches that we would pre-film that I realized like what I'm doing is dumb. Like, why am I here paying to go to school when I could just be like making short films anywhere? So long story short, after a while of doing this, a friend of mine had moved to LA, and I used her LA address to apply for jobs and got a job working for a film producer and left college entirely.
I would love to know what the name of this public access TV show was. Did you have a goofy, embarrassing name?
So there was like an older generation of dudes that had been doing it for a while, and it was called White Horse. And then when they sort of like took the White Horse name with them, when the last person from the original like White Horse class left, and we became princes of tomfoolery.
I'm glad I asked you that question.
Yeah.
So all this time, I mean, it seems like you had the camera early on because your parents had the camera. You were always interested in film. Was there a specific genre at that time that like kind of like was you were focusing in on, or was it just the act of filming something that you loved?
Little of both. I mean, I think it originally, if you would have asked very young me, it definitely would have been horror, and then became comedy for a while, which I've now realized later after making a horror film and several comedies that they're kind of the same thing. At least they exercise some of the same muscles. It's like you're trying to elicit a reaction through shock and performance and story, and so I think there's a lot of common themes. I think that
Yeah, I would say both of those genres, compared to other genres, they give you an audible reaction too. With comedy, you laugh. With
yep.
horror, you scream. With, I mean, romance, you don't. What do? You go ah,
Yeah.
ah.
Exactly. Well, I've made a couple dramas too, and I have to say that like making a drama that you've been involved or releasing a dramatic film that you've been involved with is like the most horrifying thing ever because the audience doesn't react. You don't know until the end of the movie if they're loving the movie or absolutely hating it. Whereas with comedy, they laugh or they walk out. And same thing with horror. They laugh or they walk out. And honestly, with both of those genres, I'm happy with either reaction. As long as you're reacting, that's the only thing that matters to me.
I never thought about that, but yeah, it must be so terrifying watching an audience view a drama movie because they're just sitting viewing a movie. You have no idea what they might be thinking. They might be asleep. You don't know unless you take like a flashlight up to them and shine it in their face. But I don't think that's allowed.
I still don't think you get anything because they're just watching. Maybe they cry. Maybe
they cry.
But I've never made like a tearjerker drama. They've been pretty slow burns.
I mean, in a way, we need to do something. It's a drama.
It is.
Yeah.
I think
it's dramatic.
It's also a comedy.
Yeah, it's all the genres.
Well, I guess you shove people into a bathroom and they're stuck there for a long enough time, and like all of life kind of unfolds. Every element, drama, comedy, horror. There's some stick there.
It's funny. When the preview for this movie came out, I saw a few like reactions like that mouthwash shot was more funny than anything, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's supposed to be. It's a comedy.
It's funny, yeah, because I got the same thing from people who got it, and they were like, "Oh shit, that mouth, like the Listerine." They were very excited about it. It's not Listerine. I can't say it's Listerine. It's mouthwash. But yeah, that moment does stick. If you don't, I don't know, man. I shouldn't be saying this to our future potential audiences, but it's like, if you don't get that there can be some humor there, and it can still be scary, and it can be dramatic, then like you're not the person who should be watching our film.
I think that's fine to say. I mean, no movie.
I'm not saying
no,
I hate you. I'm
no.
not saying I hate you. You're a bad person because you don't get this. I'm just saying this is not the movie for you. Good.
You're
Fine.
not saying it. I'm saying that, but that's okay.
Right. Yes.
But no movie is made for everybody. No movie is going to be liked by every single person, except for what? The movie Zodiac? I don't like Forrest Gump, Sean.
Okay. All right. You're the non-Forrest Gump person. You're the one.
Terrible.
No, I'm kidding.
Did you, before we continue, did you see a movie called The Big Sick?
The Big Sick. I'm familiar with it, but didn't see it.
Ray Romano's in it, and there's a great scene where he's in the hospital, just like talking to someone at the lunch room, and he's ranting about the internet. He's like, if you go on the internet, you find people who hate Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump! Can you believe that? I don't go on the internet. he was so offended by this. Anyway, please go on.
No, I would truly be offended if I met somebody who didn't like Back to the Future.
Me too. Yeah, that's a perfect movie.
It is. It really is. I don't even know where I was. I have no idea.
It's fine. Fuck it. But I was just while we were still on the topic of like being kids with video cameras, like I also had a video camera as a kid, and I was fairly determined to make like spooky movies. But I remember quickly being discouraged because none of my friends had that much passion for it, because I recall like we would begin filming something and they would immediately just begin fucking around and not doing what I wanted them to do. It would lead to all of these arguments like, no, this is silly as business. We are 8 years old. We have to make this movie. And I was reading like Fangoria at the time, so like, and I was also watching like behind the scenes on movies on DVDs, and I would like convince my parents to buy me condoms at a young age so I could put peanut butter in them and we could have fake guts. It was, man, nothing came of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something did come of it because you're making movies now. So those are the building blocks. I had the same thing, except I had a really, supportive, but actively engaged group of friends. There were like 5 of us that made a lot of short films together, and it was just like we all were, I think, equally obsessed with it. And so it's, and one of them, Bill, who you know, is still my producing partner to this day. As
adults. You've known him that long? Wow.
Cool. Oh yeah, we're cousins. We're first cousins. We've known each other since we were born. So, or he's younger than me, so I've known him since he was born. But we, I mean, we've been shooting stuff together since we were like 6 or 7.
I did not know that. That is pretty cool. I would say, before we move on, like, I quickly, I think, abandoned the idea of making these spooky movies with my friends, but we did use the camera full. We used it a lot to imitate a TV show called Jackass. We spent most of our days just doing stupid stunts with the camera and just laughing like hell all night long as we would upload it to my friend's computer and just like edit it. But we didn't put it on social media or YouTube or anything like that, thankfully, because it would be really embarrassing to watch now. But we were the Jackass boys. I was in the Jackass generation.
Nice. Yeah, me too. I was in high school when we were doing the Jackass stuff, so it was like we would try to drink a gallon of milk and throw up and like lots of different things where people got like mildly injured.
Yeah, nice. We should remake We Need to Do Something as a Jackass movie.
Go down this road with me. I want to hear this.
Oh, okay. So I didn't think beyond that point. But I mean, you get some folks in a bathroom, and you just see who can outdo each other with the craziest stunt. Maybe you hide like mouse traps in random spots. I don't know. At one point, maybe you walk in with like a knife and you go, "I'm gonna stab you," and you just chase them. And then if you do catch them, you have to stab them, and it would be hilarious.
Well, I did see that Bam Margera is like suing everybody involved with Jackass because they kicked him out.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to do something, the Bam Margera Jackass version, and it's just Bam in a bathroom.
We should pitch this
and
to
instead
IFC.
Of having, instead of but let's get IFC on the horn right now and pitch this to them. And instead of ending with putting on the Ritz, our big needle drop will be the Jackass theme song.
So, moving ahead now, let's talk about how you and Bill got together to make this company, Atlas, because this is a pretty awesome company, Atlas Industries, and it's the company that fucking produced this movie, and you directed it. So how did all of that come along?
I'd been in LA for a long time, like working for different companies, working as an independent producer, just making movies. And Bill he is an attorney as well, and so he came out to LA and was like doing some law stuff, and he also built like a post-production facility and ran it and sold it. And then he at some point eventually just kind of like got sick of LA and came to Michigan, where we live now, near Detroit. And I stayed in LA for a bit, but then an opportunity came up to make a documentary about this guy named John Hance, who was building the world's largest urban farm in Detroit. And I hadn't really I grew up north of Detroit. I hadn't really spent any time there as a kid other than like sporting events and museums and concerts and stuff like that. And so I really got to spend time for the first time in my life in the city of Detroit and just totally fell in love with it. And my wife was pregnant at the time. So like we moved to Michigan thinking we'd be here for a year to shoot this movie and then like head back out to LA. But we could like be in Michigan and have the kid while like near family and stuff. And anyways, after this time falling in love with Detroit and kind of thinking like, could I, as a filmmaker, make it work here? Well, on the very last day of shooting that documentary, which became a film called Land Grab, John Hance, the urban farm owner, was like, hey, let's go outside and hang out by my pool. So we go out there and we're talking, and I could like tell he was fishing, but I didn't know exactly what for. And he's like, how many of these documentaries can you make? How much money can you make off them? Could you like get a little crew together and start making a couple of these a year? And I was kind of like told him what I thought about it, and he's like, all right, cool. And that was it, like end of the conversation. So I realized I was like, either I'm crazy and this guy's just curious, or he's fishing because he wants somebody to pitch him a business making documentaries. So I took a couple weeks, wrote up a business plan. He was clearly waiting for me to propose this to him because I did. And my idea at the time was, all right, I can make 4 documentaries over 2 years. We'll make them all about like different things. There's enough interesting stuff happening around Michigan. We can do it all here. And so I pitched it to him, and he's like, all right, cool, you're good. We'll make these documentaries. You're funded. But like as I'm walking out the door, he's like, but if you're going to do this, you have to start a company. I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what a company is. What is that? Like people in suits with balance sheets and taxes? Like I don't know how to do that. And so I like one of the first things I did when this whole opportunity came up was like called Bill, and I was like, hey, how do you feel about running this production company with me? So long story short, we were like, we had equipment and space, and we were making some documentaries and doing some TV work, and then kind of doing what people tend to do in independent film and television, which is like you come up with an idea, you pitch it to people, you try to get either a network on board who's going to give you the money and air it, or in the case of independent films, like a movie like Dinner in America, which we made, you pull together money from like 20 different sources and you go and make the movies. So after a couple of years of doing this, we started to have some success, and we had a couple movies do really well, and that was very exciting. And then it was like 2020 and everybody stopped doing everything, and nothing was selling and nothing was happening. Fortunately for us, we had a movie in post-production, so it was like we were able to keep working and doing things remotely. But after a couple months of doing that, it was just like, okay, what are we going to do? When are we going to make something again? And we then started looking at like, okay, we had a garage that we converted into a soundstage, obviously you're familiar with. And we're like, what can we shoot on our stage with our cameras and not need anybody's help? What can we just make? So I started writing something that I thought would be something that we could make under those conditions. And like 2 days into writing this, Ryan Lewis, your manager, sends Bill and I your script. We need to do something. And I had no interest in reading it whatsoever. I was just like, yes. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to make the film that I was writing because anything else seemed like it couldn't be achieved. So, Bill had never done this before, where normally he just like, I read something, he reads something, I read something, one of us reads it first, and then we wait till the other one reads it, and then we talk about it. But like, he hit me up right after reading it and was like, dude, you've got to read that script. And I was like, why? He's like, I can't really tell you without giving it away. You just gotta read it. And I was like, well, could we do it right now? I'm not interested in reading anything we can't make. And he's like, oh, we can make it. So then the next morning at, I think 5:30 a.m., I started reading your script, and about 30 minutes in, the sun was starting to come up, and I had the first jump scare from text that I'd ever had in my life. Anybody who's seen the movie will know the moment, or read the book will know the moment, but I jumped out of my chair, and I was like, oh shit, this is something. So anyways, fast forward to, we meet you, we start, like, I've never had a process like this with a movie. It got insane. Like, how quickly this movie came together was just ridiculous.
I believe I Zoomed with you guys at some point in mid-July, right?
Correct.
Yeah, like, I think Ryan and I, like, just settled on the final draft then of the screenplay, maybe a month or two before then, if even that. And I've never done anything like this. I didn't know what the process was, and we were like, okay, this script is ready to be seen by people. And I was like, what now, Ryan? And he was like, I'll handle it. A few weeks will something pass, and he's like, hey, we got to Zoom with these guys. They're interested in making the movie. I'm like, what? Already? This is easy. Why doesn't everybody do this?
I should make movies.
And like, from my perspective, I mean, we can get deeper into it, and we probably should, but like, screenplay done, a few weeks, we Zoom with you, and then not that much time passes, and like, we'll greenlit, and then we're filming it in October. And it's like, what is everybody talking about with movies being so difficult? This is like the easiest thing in the universe.
Well, I gave, I guess, you and your audience a little backstory earlier on like land grab and then the start of Atlas Industries. And here's where it gets really interesting, is that, that had been, up to that point, it was like, yeah, our company and startup and all that stuff was funded by John Hance, but then we weren't going to him for like film investments. We were we were getting money from outside sources and selling things. And so I was just having a normal meeting with him, like maybe 2 weeks after getting this. Oh, by the way, like within the first 2 weeks of getting the We Need to Do Something script and getting the rights to it from you, we had raised $100,000, which we were like on our way, which was, to me, it's like any time with a movie that you get like the first significant chunk of money in, like you're getting the rest of the movie. It just takes like, just not to sound too predatory about it, but like when first blood is drawn, more blood just starts coming.
To briefly show my ignorance about how all this happens, when I found out we had raised $100,000, I was like, let's just go make the movie now. That's plenty of money. That's more money than anybody needs.
I mean, I would have. If we didn't raise $1 more than that, we would have made the movie. It would have been a very different version of the movie. It would have been, actors that we found locally or friends or something. Like, it would have been a different version, but we would have made the movie. So that's not ignorance. That's just ambition. But so I'm meeting. It's a Friday. I can actually tell you the date. It was Friday, August 17th. And now you're going to fact check this, and August 17th is like definitely not a Friday. I think it was either Friday 16th or 17th. I know this for a weird reason from old voicemail I saw today. But anyways, it's a Friday in August. Shortly after we got the rights to the script and raised a little money, and I just went to like my normal monthly meeting with John Hance to be like, hey, here's here is how things are going. Here's how the business that we run together is going. And I started telling him about the movie and that we'd raised $100,000, and he, like, the rest of our meeting just completely went away. He's like, whoa, wait a second. He's like, he then looped his daughter, Lauren, who you now know, Lauren Hance, into it. And it's like, you need to stop. He's like, the problem is whenever you make something, it's really good, but you spend so much time looking for money. He's like, I finance things for a living. That's what I do. I am a financier. Like, you need to stop looking for money. Like, we're going to fund your stuff from now on. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, as of today, he's like, I want you to go put together a plan. Tell me, if I tell you right now, your job now is to make this movie. We need to do something. I need you to tell me when it can be done. I was like, all right, let me figure that out. So Bill and I came into our office where I am now and just like spent that whole night like figuring out all the details of how we were going to do this and all the logistics. And what we came up with was that we could have the movie done by New Year's Eve. And so the next morning we went and all of us met again, and we said, yeah, we can have this thing done by New Year's Eve. And it's like, all right, well, you've got your movie, go do the work. And we then turned around and made it super quickly. It was a wildly fast process. It's insane that it was the first movie that you were a part of because of the, I don't know, however many I've worked on in various capacities. Like, nothing has ever come together this fast.
I mean, so many people in the crew and some of the cast is like, this is the first movie any of us have been involved in. Like, Shane, the one who edited this movie, this was his first like feature-length movie he edited. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's cool. I mean, I think it's that energy too. It was my first movie as a director, right? I directed documentaries before, but a first narrative film, so it's a very different thing. And I think that a lot of it is like, and the reviews that we've gotten so far about like how like audacious the movie is and bold and things that are I guess good. I guess that's what we wanted it to be. And I think a lot of that probably comes from the page. It comes from like your words and your thoughts and the fact that like you just wrote this thing that you published from your toilet, which is pretty badass. And then we made it without like knowing any better. Like I wasn't consciously thinking, and I don't think Shane was or anybody was while we were making it, like, oh, we're going to make this audacious, bold movie. We're just making what we liked. And I think that's the benefit of being a lot of us first timers in this capacity, is that there's no anxiety about like, oh, well, I did this thing before and it didn't work out for this reason. It's just like, I don't know. I think we were fearless and just made something that we like.
Now, going back a bit again, setting all the search for money aside, you get the script, you decide I want to make this movie. What are the steps that follow that? Like I'm trying to rack my brain now how things went, but my memory sucks. But I recall like you will come up with a shot list was one of the things you were doing. So like how does something like that even happen? I don't know. Like do you just go ahead?
There's a little bit of cart before horse, I think, that you have to do, because especially with knowing the time frame on which we wanted to make it, which is like nobody had worked in so long that we wanted to shoot it in the fall, just to make something, because it sucked not making things. And also there's something really romantic about making a horror movie in the fall, in October. And so what we started doing before we had funding for the actual film, just like with money that our company had, was getting some of the we got Dan Rebert working on the effects, because we knew that was going to take a long time, wanting to do practical effects for the movie. And I don't know why, but when reading the script, it just like the first thing I thought was this has to be practical effects. It just seemed like it was necessary, because the world felt so there's no good way to say this. Everything sounds so corny, but like the world felt so real. Like it needed to feel like the grit to it. Like that you needed to feel the tiles of the bathroom equally. You needed to feel the blood and the various effects. It had to be real. So,
and plus CGI just kind of sucks. I hate it. I hate it a lot.
It does. Dan Rebert actually has a good point of like, it used to be practical effects weren't that interesting because you knew everything was a practical effect. Then we got to a point where visual effects were exciting because they were new, but then I got to a point where everything's a visual effect. So and we're at this weird inflection point right now where you watch something, and if it's done well, you don't know if it's practical or visual effects. And we have a combination in ours. I mean, it's like it was all practical, and then we obviously used visual effects to get rid of like the rods and stuff and to embellish some things and make them look a little bigger. So that was I think that dance worked well together.
I mean, I think the only CGI thing that's in the movie, like besides what you said, was we had a different toilet in the movie, so we had to replace that with a CGI toilet. So like anytime in the movie you see someone sitting down, they're just crouched, and there's nothing beneath them. So that was pretty cool.
That's actually that's what Max wants to say, because it's the more PC answer. The truth is he was the toilet.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know how problematic that might seem in retrospect, but I demanded in my contract that I would play the toilet, and luckily I have a good lawyer and a good manager, and we got that to be agreed upon.
I couldn't believe as a first-time screenwriter that he had that kind of pull, but that was his one demand.
I took no money. I just said, I want to be a toilet. I want people to sit in my lap.
And we're like, all right. Fortunately, when Max saw the first cut and he realized it was distracting from the overall narrative, and so we painted him out and then put that toilet in.
Yeah. If I didn't have a constant nosebleed during those scenes, I think it would have been fine. But I don't know what was going on. I guess the moment I put myself in that position, my nose just begins leaking, and no CGI blood was coming out of my nose. I'll tell you that. That was real blood.
Didn't have spent any of our budget there.
I will say, talking about like getting Dan on build, all of this to me feels a lot like an Ocean's 11 heist type of movie. But like, okay, we gotta get the gang together. Like, how did you even know who Dan was? Like, did you guys work together on something else, or were you just like, who's a good person to do this?
It kind of was an Ocean's 11 type of thing of pulling people together to make it. Dan, so Bill thought he found Dan, but actually Colin Dewar, who was a co-producer on this film, Colin had pitched Dan to us for another film that Colin was making. And so it's like, it's one of those things where you think you have an idea, but it's like, no, somebody else gave me the idea. But so that's where Dan gave it. Bill contacted him and built a rapport with them, and then connected me with him, and we got that all going. That was weird. That was the very first thing we started doing. Before we'd raised a single dollar, Dan was working on the effects.
I think when Dan began sending us like videos of the stuff he was making in his garage, I think that's when it felt like, oh, you guys we're making a movie. This is actually happening.
Me too. And I think I don't want to give people horrible advice, if anyone is listening to this for advice, but there was just something about it that I just knew we were making the movie. And I think that that's why part of why we ended up getting that first bit of money before John and Lauren came in with all the money. I think that's why people felt like they wanted to invest, because it was like, oh, these people are doing this. And we started attaching our cast before we had the full financing. Also, normally people are like really coy, producers and filmmakers are really coy with like actors and their agents about like where they stand. Like they always say they have the money and they never do. And we didn't do that. We were like, we've got some of the money. We think we'll get the rest. Here's our dates. And our cast signed on based on that, which is like a testament to them and their agents for being cool and I guess believing in us that we actually were going to do this. And maybe that did come from the fact that I think we had a vibe about us that, and it wasn't fake. It wasn't like false bravado. We all knew we were making it, and everybody kind of felt that same way.
Should we? Yeah, we should. Let's talk about how we even like got the cast we have, because like we had you, myself, Bill, Ryan. We had lots of conversations, I know, about like who should be in this movie, and let's walk through each one maybe and how we got them on build.
It all kind of started, I can't actually remember, maybe you do, I don't remember if Pat or Sierra were first. I remember the story of how we got each. I don't remember which was first, though.
I think Sahila was the first one we had. I think she came on before Pat. I think.
And I kind of think so, too. And that was because you were like, hey, there's this movie, The Vast of Night, and there's this actor in it, Sierra McCormick, you've got to check it out. And I think we all watched it, and we're like, yeah, like, holy shit, that's Melissa. Absolutely. And it seemed sort of like, I knew her manager really well. I'd known him for a very long time, but it still, for some reason, seemed like you never just see somebody in a movie and they're like, hey, they'd be perfect for my movie, and then they actually do it. Like, that doesn't happen. and so it did.
I think
it was really weird.
I think my logic at the time, and it still makes sense in my head now, for why I thought she would be so good from watching that movie, is The Vast of Night, which A, is just a great movie, but B, the movie relies so much on dialogue and like long shots like that don't break away of just that kill still talking. And this movie, We Need to Do Something, is also really dialogue driven, so I think that was kind of like, oh well, she obviously is great at just memorizing lines and expressing them in a good, realistic way.
Yeah, it was all those things. There's like one particular moment in Vast of Night that's just like a close-up on her for what must be like 2 minutes, and she just completely carries the scene. And that's like a rare quality for an actor to be able to do. It's a very hard thing to pull off, and yeah, we got really lucky. And she's great in our film too, so that was just an incredible stroke of luck. And then we had worked with Pat Healy on Dinner in America, and similarly like sent Pat the script, and it was like we did get lucky because, like, I hate to say this, but like we got I don't know why I feel like this weird like survivor's guilt that like we got lucky because of the pandemic, but I do feel like a weird guilt over it. But like Pat read the script really fast and loved it and wanted to do it, and nobody was working. Like, just this is August of 2020, like nobody had worked and nobody was working. And so he signed on really quickly. And it's one of those things too, when you have a couple of actors that other actors respect already on the project, especially with a first-time director, it makes it so much easier. It's just that, oh, someone else is trusting this person, I'm going to trust this person too. Or at least if the ship sinks, I'll sink in good company.
Yeah,
right?
I would drown with Pat Healy. I would drown.
Yeah,
if he's listening, I would drown with you.
You should write a song, write him a poem.
He's coming on the show. I'll tell him that. Yeah.
Yeah, you should tell him that.
I will say I recently watched Dinnell and Emilica, and it's really funny to watch that movie and then We Need to Do Something because Pat Healy plays a father and husband in both movies, and they kind of dress similar, but they couldn't be more different, and it's really funny to me.
Yeah, they are very, very, very different. His name is Norm in Dinner in America, and he is very much not Robert.
He's like
There.
a 50s sitcom dad almost
Yeah,
in that movie.
he is. Yeah, this is the very dark version of that guy.
And how did we get
I
Vinessa Shaw on this movie? I'm struggling to recollect now.
It was tough. So there were we we had talked to a couple of people who were actually like really great who wanted to do it, but just like weren't perfect for the role. But also I was like, it's always like when you have actors you respect who, and you had this experience, like read your script, like read your words is like a really trippy thing. And then for me to like, I typically, I'll get to two stories soon in which I did audition, but I don't audition with actors whose work I'm familiar with. I'm like, I know you can do the fucking job. Like, I'm not going to put you through the indignity of having to audition unless there's like a very specific thing, like an accent that you're going for. So I just do Zoom meetings or Skype meetings with them and see if we like get along and if they like the material for the same reason that I say this like I've done it like 20 times. I've done it once. I'm an asshole. But so yeah, went through that process like a couple Dianes. It just wasn't quite right. And then I don't somebody's Vanessa's agent like sent us a list with like a bunch of people, and I saw Vanessa on it, and it was like, oh my God, that'd be amazing. She's done so much great work, and she also read it really quick. She was actually the only person who had worked. Like nobody had worked except for her. She was on a movie, and so she read it while she was on that set. And as soon as she got back, she Zoomed, and it was like I got off the Zoom with her and like didn't hear anything, and was like, oh God, I really hope I didn't like screw that up. I hope that she wants to do this as much as I want her to do it. And she did. We were there, and we were like, okay, we're 3/5 of the way cast. It was pretty awesome.
She was filming a movie in Austin because I googled Vanessa like after I found out she was on it. I knew she was, but I was just like, okay, what's she been up to recently?
Yeah.
And I saw she was filming something in Austin. I was like, should I go down and find the set and say, hey, I wrote that screenplay? And then I thought, oh, that would be creepy as fuck.
Glad you did do that. I'm glad you did that.
I actually told Vanessa this because I ran into her one night after the day wrapped, and we were both walking to the hotel room. And I was like, I really gave some thought to just like stalking you in Austin to say, hey, it's me. And she laughed nervously and just quickened the pace to the hotel room.
But she was in too deep to leave at that point.
Yeah, she signed contracts. It was too late.
Yeah. And then Amy and Bobby were really difficult, truly, like really, truly extremely difficult to cast. I don't even know how many auditions we watched. And these were just tapes. People read scenes and put themselves on tape. And we watched like hundreds of tapes for Amy. And everybody was just, for whatever reason, not right. They just weren't nailing it. I couldn't even like... And so then you try to give them, there's somebody who you think like they're a good actor, but they just didn't do it right. You try to give them some direction, and they do another tape, and it's still like the other tapes weren't working. And then actually Bill again sent me that he's like, holy shit. I remember he sent it in a text. He's like, you've got to watch this tape. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll watch the tape. And it was Lisette's tape. And it was like, it was everything. She had everything down that would be Amy. It was crazy. Do you remember how like wildly good her tape was?
He sent that text to all of us, like in a group text. Yeah, I remember clicking on it, and we had watched so many of them. And first of all, let me just say, being able to watch auditions for a movie I wrote was fucking unreal. And but I saw that one, and we had seen so many, and you're right. None of them were like exactly what we wanted, even if we weren't even positive what we wanted. But what we wanted was what Lisette gave us. It was like immediately, it's like, oh, she is Amy.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was just she knew the character. It was like it would have sucked if it didn't work out with her, because we would have been trying to get somebody else to do exactly what she did. And that was, that was wild. And it was her first movie, which is what was really crazy.
Yeah, she's gonna blow up, I think, when this movie comes out. I mean, her phone's gonna be ringing off the hook. I mean, she's gonna blow up. I think when this movie comes out, Pat Healy, he's going places.
Yeah.
I know he's doing like this small movie right now with Scorsese, but I mean, he's gonna be blowing up after We Need to Do Something comes out.
Yeah, it's gonna take him to the next level, whatever level. Scorsese and Spielberg.
I mean, that's fine, but yeah.
But our cast has like checked every list you can possibly check between like. Oh, this is also a good Vinessa story. Is that like I really wanted to ask Vinessa what it was like to work with Kubrick, but I also don't want to be that person right when meeting somebody of like, hey, person whose work I respect, what's it like to work with this other person whose work I respect? Just because it's like not nice. But Vinessa, like, she must get that question a lot or something, because we spent the first day and a half basically of rehearsals, not rehearsing, just kind of talking and getting to know each other. And it, like, she immediately went to Kubrick stories, which I thought was pretty cool. I was very happy.
That's awesome. Before we get the rehearsals, Bobby was interesting.
I think it's very difficult to be a good child actor, and it was really hard. Like, we watched terrible tapes after terrible, like, I feel bad these are little kids, so I would never say it to their face or like to their parents, but like it was just like, I don't know if the kids want to be there, their parents are like forcing them to do this, or like what the deal is, but you get some weird stuff when
those are many tapes that I laughed a lot at, because I mean, usually you have like the mom or the dad reading the other lines, but as the kid says the Bobby lines, and so much of the script is like, shut the fuck up, you piece of shit. So you have these like moms saying like, Bobby, calm the fuck down, Bobby. It's just really funny to me, just imagining how, like, what that must have been like, and how often that happens in that household. And maybe kids just shouldn't act because maybe it's abusive, I don't know, but it just seems really awkward. Just everything involved just seemed really unintentionally funny and strange to me.
Yeah, it really was. And then so we originally tried to cast local in Michigan where we shot, and that just failed. It didn't work. We couldn't find anybody. So we started looking in LA and New York, and honestly, we saw John James's face, and we were like, that kid looks so fucking awesome. Yeah. I hope he can act. And then he sent a tape, and it was really good, and he'd worked. He like actually had acting experience, so it was that was the last piece to fall in line, and it was a big concern of ours, but I'm happy it landed the way it did.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when we saw his what do you call it? Just a photo. It's like a specific headshot. When we saw his headshot, we were all like, "This kid looks like he's a movie star already. Let's just get him."
I know. He had that perfect movie kid face, and like his glasses and smile. Everything was just perfect. Like he looked like he could be Pat and Vanessa's kid.
Yeah. It's pretty cool how that lined up. How they actually do look like a family. Like I recall, people sending me shots of them like, I don't know what it's called, like when you like dress them up and take photos to see how they might look in the movie.
Like costume fitting.
It was just nuts when I would get those photos. Like, oh, this is just like a happy family that's about to just have an awful time in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So at this point, I mean, I know JP, the DP, you already knew him at least from Dental in America. So I imagine that's why you reached out to him about this movie, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and what about Amy Williams? How did you know her already?
I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Amy's our production designer, and we were just like casting a really wide net and looking for people who were available. And weirdly enough, she wasn't available. But well, she was available, and she lives in New York, but she's originally from Michigan, so like she could stay with her mom here in Michigan and work as a local. And so she started under the idea that she didn't think she had anything, but there might be a chance she had to go to London. And so she got all of our design work done really fast and really well, and then had to leave for London to go do this other job. And so she couldn't actually be here on the ground with us when we were shooting. But that was just like, I mean, it was like cold outreach, I think, that Bill was doing to try to find people that were from here or had connections to here, and like somehow came across her, and her work was just unbelievable. And she actually, her reason for signing on, can there be spoilers on this?
Yeah, I mean, the movie, this episode specifically is coming out the Friday the movie comes out. Let's not spoil, like, major things. Oh, what are you going to tell me? I'll tell you if we can use it.
No, Amy said the reason she was signing on is because it was a chance to design an iconic bathroom, and because all the men end up dead.
Yeah, fuck it. I mean, I'll say a thing in the intro. Maybe watch the movie before listening to this. That's fine.
And we can maybe say too, you can like interject right before that moment and be like, and seriously, if you haven't seen the movie, a big spoiler is coming. Like,
I'll add an edit.
Podcast, but.
So now we have the prolific gang to make this movie heist. Besides getting these people involved, what else is involved in pre-production? Like, I know you will making a shot list. I don't know if you will doing that with JP involved. Like, what all goes into planning out the movie before actually filming it, besides money stuff and cast and crew stuff?
Yeah, the shot list is kind of, in my mind, the most important next step. Because I think most people would say the schedule is the most important next step, but I disagree with that because I don't think you can properly schedule without knowing what your shots are. Like, what one person's idea of a day looks like is very different than somebody else. You could have a scene with 3 words of dialogue that is 75 shots. And it just depends on what the action is happening. And so that's going to change the way your day is scheduled. So yeah, JP and I meticulously shot listed every single shot in the movie. We left nothing up for chance. It was, we not only did shot list, but since we had the advantage of knowing what our location was for 95% of the movie, and it was a single location, we did like these overhead diagrams of where the camera would be, where the characters would be. We had the movie completely shot in our heads before we started shooting. Also, I mentioned we did rehearsals. So what actually was very interesting is that the set took a little longer to build than we thought it was going to. We planned on doing rehearsals with the cast on the actual set, but it didn't work out that way. So we went in our basement instead and taped off the exact dimensions of the bathroom with tape on the floor, and did rehearsals there. And JP and I were just like at first I'd seen, it was a behind the scenes like DVD thing of one of the Indiana Jones movies, and I saw Steven Spielberg, like, he would act out exactly what he wanted the cast to do, and then he's like, all right, do it.
I know what scene. I know what you're talking about. I saw the same thing. It's when it's inside that like pub, and those people come in looking for that amulet, and like they do a shootout, and like Steven Spielberg is like, even like he's physically jumping over the tables, like just like that. Just do that. Yeah.
He's doing every actor's part, and so I kind of thought that's what I was supposed to do, and so I started off doing that, and then like halfway through a clunky first day of rehearsals, I could kind of feel like it wasn't feeling right to the actors. So I was just like, what would you do? Like, what, you know the character now. What would you guys do? And so I watched them sort of like re-choreograph everything. And so then JP and I were just looking at each other like, this does not work for where we plan on the camera being. So we basically shot listed the entire movie twice. Once before rehearsals and once after rehearsals. So we'd rehearse for like 8 hours or something. And then for 4 or 5 hours, JP and I would go and re-shot list the movie. And that was really cool to be able to do that. But then when we actually got on the set and we're shooting, things were just different, having walls where we didn't know exactly where they'd be. So then we sort of re-shot listed it for a third time. The process, while we were shooting, I'm jumping ahead a little, but while we were shooting, you were with Shane, our editor, upstairs at our office editing the movie as we shot it. So JP and I would come in, watch edits and footage with you guys, see what worked, see what didn't, know the way the actors moved based on, because we do a rehearsal every night after we were done shooting with the actors for the next day's scenes, and then we'd reshot list everything again that night. So we were really like adapting the movie and what it was based on what we had seen and kind of what we were feeling. So yeah, the shot list was critical. I don't know what we would have done without it.
What other types of conversations go into like planning these shots? Like, I've seen like movies about people making movies, and sometimes it's like, okay, this camera angle, we should have it like this way to present this type of mood. Like, is that something you and JP were talking about on every single shot? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a combination. I mean, since the movie is in one location, we were really cognizant of the fact that if we aren't using the camera to help tell the story, it could be really visually uninteresting. We were aided by the fact that we had great performances from our actors and a beautiful bathroom to look at, but you still need to have the camera in the right place. And so we were really trying to figure out how we were going to control the pacing and how we were going to lean into and out of claustrophobia, make the audience feel more claustrophobic. Like, for instance, if you notice in most movies, if an actor, like when you shoot the coverage and it's a single on an actor, there will be more space in the frame between their face and the edge of the frame, if that's making sense. And we shot it what's called short-sighted, which means their face is closer to the edge of the frame, which enhances the claustrophobia. We also didn't want it to be like a sloppy all handheld movie, so we actually only had one handheld sequence originally. Then when we shot that handheld sequence, it was so effective that we added more handheld in later. So it was like, yeah, we wanted to be very controlled, but we didn't also want to be so rigid that we weren't missing opportunity, or that we were missing opportunities. So it was really about like the camera as a storytelling device versus just an image capturing device, and camera movement and framing were all like extremely important, and there was not a single thing that wasn't, designed to have an additive effect.
Did you guys always intend on shooting the movie chronological as well?
Yeah, that was really important. And honestly, just from like a budgetary standpoint, we couldn't have shot it out of chronological order because we didn't have enough costumes. Like, when they got bloody and dirty, they were bloody and dirty. There was no like, even when Sierra's shirt gets or Melissa's shirt gets very bloody at one point, that was just the real blood dripping onto it and making that design. And then the later versions of the shirt, we had to design to that actual blood splatter.
Yeah, like, after coming away from this movie, I'm thinking, like, man, every movie should be shot this way. I understand, like, why they always can't be, because not every movie has just one setting, and maybe you don't have permission or the availability to go to this setting right then, so it's easier to shoot all the house scenes, and then you go to a different place and shoot all of those scenes. I assume that's why those decisions were made.
It's that and actor availability. A lot of times you don't have the same actors run the whole run of the show. So you work around like, okay, we can only shoot this person's scenes during these 3 days. So it becomes a whole mess. We had the luxury of doing it chronologically, which I want to do to the extent we can, because on every movie, because I think it really helped the actors and the crew and everybody, just like you're understanding what's happening and how these characters are changing, how their situation is changing. So that was, that was the plan from the beginning. I'm really happy it worked out the way that it did.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask some of the cast when I have them on, like, how challenging it might be to make a movie that isn't like this, because I don't know, I feel like you would kind of forget like what kind of an emotional ilk you've made in the movie. Like, you show up a day, maybe the previous day you just saw your wife die, and now today you have to like do a scene that happens in the beginning of the movie. You'll feel not so sad. I wonder how confusing that might be. It feels like it would not be the greatest way to do a job.
Yeah, I think it would be very difficult. I mean, I'll be interested to listen to their interviews with you, but I think they like doing it chronologically. And I think they really like the rehearsal time as well. I think those are things that that we did that are maybe atypical, that I always want to make a part of my process, because it seemed like as we were doing it, it really helped.
Now, this is your Phil's time like directing a cast.
Uh-huh.
What the was that? Were you like nervous about that? Like, how did you know what you were going to tell them? Like, what was that even like? That to me, when I think about bossing around a cast, I am overwhelmed with anxiety. I don't like telling anyone to do anything.
It So because I produced a handful of movies and worked very closely with directors, going into it, like I slept like a fucking baby the night before our first shoot. Like I felt so ready. And then when I showed up, we rehearsed, like the shot was, we'd done all the right things, and I felt so ready until I showed up on that first morning and like answering questions during pre-production because you're getting asked a million questions, right? Everything, like the color of certain things, which prop do you want to use? It's like that Wes Anderson Amex commercial. Do you remember that where he's like walking and they walk up to him with a tray full of guns? He's like, not this one, that one. Like you're doing that, only it's a lot more fun to watch someone else do it. And that's happening. So meanwhile, like you're trying to be focused, but you can't be because other people are relying on you to answer questions. And so it like the first half of the first day, really the first day, was really hard for me to get into that groove and to like kind of feel like I knew what I was doing. And then we unfortunately had a positive COVID case the morning of our second day, and so we got delayed a couple days. And I took that time to like really go through the footage, and Shane had edited it, and like talk with JP and like think about things and figure out like why I felt the way I did on the first day. And then about halfway through day two, I was like, all right, like I've got this figured out. I know. And the answer, weirdly enough, was in not me having it figured out, but like listening more to everybody around me and the actors and like leaning into what everybody was bringing and understanding that like it wasn't about bossing people around. It was about giving everybody what they need to do their job the best. And then you get out of your own head and you're not thinking about you anymore. You're thinking about the movie and what each person needs to do what they to bring what you know they're capable of to the film in the best way they can. So it was pretty eye-opening. And then honestly, I felt great the entire rest of the shoot after that first day and a half.
What do you think would have been different about the filming of the movie if we didn't have COVID safety precautions in effect?
The movie wouldn't have been as good.
Yeah.
I think the movie was really aided by the fact after that COVID positive, the whole crew moved into the hotel that the cast was staying at, which is in the same parking lot as the garage/soundstage where we're shooting. And I think we all got to feel genuine claustrophobia the way the family was, because we weren't seeing daylight. We were seeing a hotel, a parking lot, and a soundstage with no windows. So it was like having that sense of claustrophobia and having that sense of doing something really hard. And like we were dirty by the end. Like we were going through a version of what the family went through, minus the occult and supernatural elements and murder. But it I don't think it would have had the intensity. I think our third act's fucking wild, and I think that's because the cast and crew had this like pent up energy, and we were ready to let loose, and we were ready to let blood shed, and we all also knew each other really well. It was like I forget who I was talking to, but in like a I think it was some kind of interview. I realized that someone told me, they're like, so it sounds like summer camp. And I was like, it was like a nightmare version of a summer camp. It was a summer camp.
Did any of the cast ever like act like, okay, I'm sick of this fucking bathroom, Sean?
No. No. I mean, I knew we all were, but it was interesting because I think as sick as the bathroom as we all were, and as relieving as it was, bathroom joke, as relieving as it was to leave the bathroom got torn down the next day for something that had to shoot on the soundstage the day after that, and everybody was sad across the board.
I walked down from my hotel room. I just kind of saw it outside in the dumpster. I'm like, I thought we were going to do this for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to end. It was so sad.
It was pretty sad. And then those 2 days that we shot on location were really fun. It was nice to be outside, with the exception of the fact that weather is a giant pain in the ass and almost destroyed. Well, actually, that was the beginning. Our last day of shooting almost got ruined by a horrific storm. We like barely got in everything we needed, but did get it all, which is phenomenal, which is Max's fault for conjuring up this horrific Amy storm. The weather has been nuts ever since that day. Like, it's just been 10 months of insane weather.
Same in Texas, man. It's been raining like every single day. This is also the year in Texas that it snowed like for a week straight and the state got shut down. And since that snow, it has not stopped raining.
And we've had 100-mile-per-hour winds. Like 2 days ago, 100-mile-per-hour winds. Tornadoes, which Michigan never has. Yeah. Trees down like once a week. I think 800,000 people in Michigan don't have power right now.
Because of
which
this
is
movie.
Unbelievable. You definitely opened up some sort of Amy curse. But
I recall the day you're talking about. In the movie, for those listening, in the movie, it's the scene Melissa spots Amy, like, in the bleachers of a stadium of a football field. And, like, we could see the sky, and we knew, like, okay, this is going to hit us in any fucking second from now. We have to get this. And it was kind of a fun disaster, because when we showed up, like, there was a football team on the field, and they were not leaving.
It's like we've been in this extremely disciplined COVID safety environment, and then we're at a high school with a football team with nobody wearing masks, and it was just like, what is happening?
I put the wrong school into my phone GPS, and I went to a different school originally. I went to the parking lot, and it was the most crowded school I've ever gone to in my life. No one had any mask on, and I'm thinking, how is this going to be safe to film it? Then I realized, I'm just at the wrong fucking school.
That's hilarious. It was pretty crowded anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, the rain that hit us was so fucking bad, and I recall being really stupid because all of the whole crew and cast were like kind of hiding from the rain and stuff, and we were going to have a rap party that night at Atlas, and Josh Madelman was like, let's just leave and get drunk now. And I said, yeah, why not? So both of us just took off into this flood that was happening in the parking lot, and we just drove away, and you guys were like, why would you leave at this point in time? Why would you choose now to drive?
You all, yeah, that was not the best time to leave. But it was pretty wild. That was a wild day.
So movie wraps, what goes into post-production then, besides the editing that's been happening since filming began?
Man, normally you wait about a month to 2 months until your editor has an assembly or a rough cut, and you, as the director, you then sit in with the editor and watch it and see what you have. It was kind of wild because Shane didn't want like any time. Like he pretty much, like a week after we were done shooting, he had an assembly, and I sat with him, and I was like, wow, we have a movie. So not long after that, we had a cut that we kind of shared with all of our team, with all of you guys. We also did this thing where we sent the movie out to like some people with these surveys, and it was a complete and utter waste of fucking time. That was like the worst thing ever. I know. It's funny. I've got another film in post-production right now, and the director and editor like love doing these surveys and sending them out to people. I guess it's a personality difference or something. But like when I sent it to you guys, and like we sent it to other producers and like Peter and like all these people like who had good notes and thoughtful notes, and then we sent it to these other people, and it was like, what was interesting about it is that it told me that nothing in the movie needed to change. Because it was like, some people say the beginning's too slow. Some say the end is too slow. Some say the beginning's perfect. Some say the end is perfect. And I'm like, all right, I'm not interested in like your individual personal taste when you're looking at it to nitpick, to give notes so that you sound smart.
Yeah, that's the issue with these surveys. I mean, when we were doing them, I was not quiet about my opinion. I think they create issues because if they watch a movie and they don't see anything wrong, they're going to come up with something they think is wrong, because they might be stupid if they think, oh, this is fine. There's nothing wrong with this. They search for things to complain about just so they could have not that empty space on the goddamn survey.
Totally. And I am very proud of the fact that we did not change a single thing after the service. Like, we made changes when our producers and our friends had like thoughtful notes, but we didn't give it to any of those people. We didn't lead the witness, right? We were just like, hey, watch the movie. Let us know what you think. And some things got a lot better as a result. But yeah, it was a very fast post-production process. The edit, like, Shane is just an animal and brought the edit together really quickly. And then it was like VFX, and color correction, and sound design. We spent a lot of time on the sound design, actually. That was really fun. We had Colin Alexander, our sound designer, was based in New York. He did all the like prep work in New York, and then came over here to the same place where you and Shane were editing while shooting. And we spent, like, normally on a movie this size, the post-production sound mix is 5 days, and we spent like 6 weeks. And I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, the movie heavily relies on sound, so I'm really pleased with how the movie sounds now. It's great. You guys spent a good amount of time perfecting it, and it shows, I think.
Yeah, and the music is really great too, and the music came together really quickly, and I think those two things work together really, really kind of incredibly well. It was funny. We struggled with music for a while, and then when David came on board to compose it, it was just like, it was the same thing. It was sort of like Lisette's audition for Amy, where like we didn't know exactly what we were looking for, and then we heard what David did. We're like, yes, more of that. It was like all these things that are sort of like feelings, I guess. That's what's hard. It's hard to explain feel, and people just get it or they don't. It's like,
he got it, man. He definitely got it. I'm gonna have him on as well, and we're gonna walk through like each song and how like that was composed and why. So for folks listening, stay tuned for that. That will be a big spoiler filled episode.
Cool.
So, I mean, what is left beyond this point? I mean, we get distribution with IFC, we fucking premiere at Tribeca, and now they're out today. I mean, is there anything in those moments that you want to touch on, Heel?
I've had good experiences and bad experiences with distributors. Some are more filmmaker friendly than others and like weigh in on things, and it was pretty cool. IFC like genuinely cared what we thought about the marketing materials, and we're just super supportive and cool. I'm really happy with where we landed with things.
Didn't the president of IFC call you like directly to talk about it?
Yeah, and there was a couple, like, I thought that was pretty cool too. There were a couple, like, this is the weirdest thing ever. Another piece of advice is do not put an emergency alert sound in your movie, because it is illegal to broadcast it in the US.
Oh,
illegal.
what?
Yes.
Really?
So we had to, it was like, I fought really hard. I was like, to the point of like being like a total psychopath with their top legal affairs people to like, look, this is a creative choice. This isn't like, it's not we're not saying this is an emergency, or this is a test of the emergency alert system or something like that. We're not saying that it's that. It's like, it's a part of the movie. Like, you need to have this sound coming from the phone. And it got to the point, like, I loved that they were taking it that seriously. Really, yeah, like Ariana, the president of IFC, called and was like, look, we have fought for you too. We'd like to support your creative decision. It literally is illegal. We could get fined millions of dollars if we play this sound. So we had to replace it with something else. And like, I felt like kind of dumb because what we have now works just as well.
I had no idea about this. I didn't even realize it wasn't the sound. Now I'm going to have to go back and watch it again.
I know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy. It's totally crazy. So that was pretty cool. But like, yeah, they were really supportive and still continue to be. And obviously, that's really important. And coming up with that stuff is fun. Like working on the trailer and the poster and all of that. If you have good partners versus somebody who's just trying to like shove something you hate down your throat.
Who made the new phone notification noise?
Colin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that, yes. And what other elements? I guess I'm trying to think of what other
Well, let's
things. Like,
talk about
what's
premiering
fun?
at Tribeca.
Yeah, that was fun. It was kind of wild because it was the first in-person festival post, or I guess mid-pandemic in the United States. And so it was outside. And the movie premiered as the sun was setting in the middle of Brooklyn on a super warm, windy night. And it kind of couldn't have been more perfect. It was like setting sun when the movie started. When the movie started getting really spooky, the sun was down, and we watched the movie with like a bunch of our friends and some audiences outside under the stars. It was
It's in the background, dogs will barking, which is pretty fun if you've seen the movie. And like at certain points, because of people in Brooklyn, like trains go by, like the noise of a train is really loud, and sometimes you can mistake it for Fendel, which I did. And I was like, what the fuck, is it about the rain? And like my wife was like, no, that's a train. I was like, oh, okay. I was extremely nervous that night. I kept like wanting to get up and just pace around, but
the
yeah.
night before there was an insane thunderstorm, and so it was a real threat that it could rain and like ruin the premiere of the movie. And like at an event like that where there's I don't know how many films screening, they don't reschedule it. It's just like just done. So we got so lucky with the weather, and it was just so cool to reconnect with everybody and watch it together.
Yeah, Vinessa had two movies premiere at Tribeca, and the one before that, the one that wasn't an all movie, it got rained out, and I feel like so bad for everyone
Yeah.
involved in that movie. Like, imagine like paying the money to fly out, get a hotel room, it's gonna premiere at Tribeca, and then nothing's happening. That just sucks so much.
That really sucks. And that's like especially like, man, if it's your first film, like for us, think of what that would have been. Like you like you work for to like get a filmmaker's dream, which is a premiere at like a major festival, and then it doesn't premiere. That's such a bummer.
I would still be depressed about it today.
I would too. I would too. Yeah, I see. I always had that feeling of like what could have been, what could have happened. And,
Something else I think we should touch on that maybe most folks don't quite understand is I didn't understand it until recently. It's how long like we all continue to work on the movie after it's finished. I mean, not that long ago, we were like watching cuts of the movie trailer and like making
yeah.
decisions on that. And like even now, is it are you Sean done milking on this movie? I don't know.
No, I mean we've got festivals and premieres in other countries through October. Like and this is a fast process, like blazing fast. It was like our movie premiered at a festival less than a year before the script was even finished. So like think about a normal process where you're working on the movie, trying to get the financing, trying to get the cast, trying to get the crew, trying to do those things for like a year or two before you even start shooting. We were doing that within a month or two. So while this has been a really fast process, it also takes a really long time. It's like if you're making a movie, you're on that thing for like a couple of years.
It really put into perspective. Like sometimes in the past, I would be impatient, like looking at IMDb's of like my favorite like filmmakers. Like, come on, you can't make more movies. What's going on? Why is there such a long gap between all these goddamn movies? But it makes a lot of sense now. There's so much time spent into this movie besides the time that is spent filming it, and I don't think I completely wrapped my head around that until this year.
Yeah. I mean, filming it was 4 weeks, and
Yeah.
a year later, we're still here.
Yeah, we're having this conversation exactly 21 days before the movie comes out, and this episode will come out on the day of release. I mean, it's pretty fucking wild. I imagine these next 3 weeks are just gonna zip by. What are you thinking of right now about all of this? Like, are you nervous at all? Are you like, do you have any expectations or hopes of how the audience reacts to any of this?
The movie is coming out in theaters, and I'm a little worried that like COVID seems like it's getting kind of shitty again. So that's a concern.
Yeah.
So But realistically, a movie, like, unless you're making a Marvel movie, the majority of the people that see your movie aren't seeing it at theaters.
Right.
Like, I wish they would, but like, who am I to dictate where a person consumes a piece of art? So, most people will see it on VOD, and I think that I'm not nervous. I think that the reaction from people is going to be pretty similar to the reaction that we've gotten thus far out of festivals, which is like the people that get it really fucking love it, and then there are people who are like, what did I just see? And we knew that from the beginning. And
Yeah.
all of my favorite movies are like that. Like, every movie that I truly love is polarizing, and I think that's what it is. Like we talked about, you don't, like, there's no movie that everybody loves, and the movies even that most people like are like, I'm not interested in doing that. Down the middle means nothing to me. It's that I'm not interested in that. Like, I think we made something that pushes boundaries, and that the right people will get. And I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, anxious, because it's just a thing that's going to happen. But I'm not, like, sitting around nervous, like, are people going to like it or not? Because it's like,
neither am I. I learned a long time ago, just because I've been in like books and publishing for a while, something I taught myself to get over the fact that I'm going to get bad reviews, probably lots of bad reviews, is I would think of like my favorite books of all time and then go like to Amazon and look at the reviews and click on 1-star reviews and just read them and be like, no one knows shit about anything. We're all just a bunch of sentient sacks of meat walking around until we rot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sentient sacks of meat walking around until we rot on a rock that is floating through space at hundreds of thousands of miles per hour.
Yeah, no one understands why this is happening. We're all really confused. And sometimes we look at a box and we see images and we go, this is what I dedicate my life to now. And that's what we decided to do for some reason, because what else? We need some type of distraction.
Yeah, exactly. So might as well have a fun distraction.
All right. I think that's a good way to end it, unless you have anything else you want to add.
I don't think so.
Okay, cool.
No, I do want to add one thing.
Yeah.
I'm really happy. We almost made a super critical error, and there's a song that comes into the movie a couple times, and at one point we were really close to it being Good Riddance by Green Day, and we swapped it out for Putting on the Ritz, and it was like the best decision we made.
Was it Good Riddance? I thought it was that thud humping song. What's that band? You get knocked down, you get up again.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that you and Shane were working on. That got swapped up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But those were the only 3 songs that were ever in consideration for this movie.
I can't even remember what the song is named, but I know the beginning is like, you get knocked down, you get up again. I'm never gonna give you up. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah. I like that song. I can't think of the band or the song name, but it's pretty good. It's pretty.
Thumbawumba, Tub Thumping or something.
Yeah, that's it. You got it. Thank you. I didn't have it prepared because I thought we vowed never to speak of that band again, but I brought it up.
Yeah. Hey, that's what the postscript is for.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Sean King O'Grady. Once again, go watch We Need to Do Something at WeNeedToDoSomething.movie. Theme song for the Ghoulish podcast was done by Heathenish Kid, aka Kelby Losack. Go buy his books, and go buy my books at perpetualpublishing.com. Leave a review on iTunes, the podcast. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/PMM Publishing. Bam! That's it. That's all I have to say. Goodbye. Enjoy the movie. If you watch it, if you don't watch it, that's okay too. It's not that great.
spooky, die spooky.
Rest in peace, Max.